Okay, thank you, Sue. Okay, so I'll be talking about the mammal populations in the Drakensberg Park and in surrounding areas. Managing animals requires an accurate estimate and understanding of their long-term population dynamics, specifically population numbers, group structure, and their distribution. However, estimating population size is extremely difficult, particularly undertaking game census in the Drakensberg because of the size and the terrain of the park. The game observation method is used within the park, conducted by Izimvelo KZN Wildlife, in order to monitor population trends of a number of animal species. And this is done by ranger patrols who observe and count the number of animals observed during these patrols in order to obtain a measure of frequency with which animals are encountered in the park over time. So the aim of this component of my research is to assess the long-term population trends and distribution of indigenous mammalian herbivores in the Ukuhlamba Drakensberg Park and that of livestock in surrounding communal and commercial farming areas. With regards to the indigenous mammalian herbivores, we want to determine the trend in the number of individuals per species per unit effort over time and to identify changes in distribution patterns. A key objective here is to determine whether a common pattern occurs between different species, indicating a common causal agent, or whether species show individualistic behaviors. And for livestock, we wanted to determine livestock population trends in each of the magisterial districts surrounding the Drakensberg protected area. So the Drakensberg system is recognized as a biodiversity hotspot and center of endemism for plant and invertebrate diversity in southern Africa. This montane system, in addition, offers a contrast of three prominent land uses in southern Africa, namely protected areas, communal tenure, and commercial livestock production. These three land uses differ in terms of fire and grazing impacts of grasslands, which is the dominant vegetation type of this region and the focus of the study. Izimvelo KZN Wildlife uses a game observation method as part of an ongoing monitoring program over 24 years, recording number of individuals, number of sightings, distribution using grid cells, and game ranger patrol hours. And this is done for a number of animal species. The eland are analyzed separately on account of more reliable data being available through aerial surveys. We also have data for jackal, which we've also analyzed as a potential predator for mammal species in the berg. With regards to livestock species, a number of long-term databases were available for us in order to determine population numbers in KZN over the years and in areas immediately surrounding the Drakensberg. So with regards to wildlife results, patrol hours have been fairly consistent across the years. Analyses showed no significant difference in patrol hours over the years. So this allowed us to analyze population trends in relation to the number of individuals per unit time. And looking at our first species, we have blesbuck. After being introduced into certain areas and becoming well established in the 70s and 80s, the blesbuck population in the Drakensberg started experiencing a continuous decline from 1995 to the current year, and their distribution also decreased significantly over the years. So all these population trends are from 1995 up until the current year. Common reedbuck do not compete with other species as they have specialized habitat which is not utilized by other game, yet they are still experiencing a decline in population numbers across the years within the park. And again, their distribution has decreased significantly over the years, with the exception of the Royal Natal and Rugged Glen population in the northern part of the berg. Grey rearbuck and oribi populations, which oribi will be in the next slide, they both experience a slight initial increase in population numbers, followed by a continuous decline over the years. And again, for both these species, there's a significant decrease in distribution over the years. And oribi being grassland specialists under major threat, with majority of their populations declining in KwaZulu-Natal. Mountain reedbuck also compete very little with other grazers owing to their unique habitat requirements, and this could account for the fact that some of their numbers appear to be increasing in recent years. However, data is quite variable with the species. And again, we see a decrease in distribution within the park. The population trend for grey duiker is highly variable. They're found in almost any habitat, provided there's suitable cover for protection, possibly explaining the variability in numbers of individuals being recorded from year to year. And their distribution is also significantly shrinking in recent years. Klipspringer occupy one of the widest geographical ranges in the Drakensberg, and results for the Klipspringer should be taken with precaution, as game observations are not targeted at these rocky habitats, and observations of Klipspringer are quite rare. Baboon numbers appears to have increased initially, followed by a dip and then stability in recent years. However, their range has also significantly contracted within the park in recent years. So as I mentioned earlier, the eland population was assessed separately on account of more reliable data being available through aerial surveys. This figure shows the eland population from 1942 up until 1982 remained relatively stable. The population then increased from 1983 to 1990. However, there was a continuous decline observed between 2003 and 2018. And this is together with a 37% reduction in distribution within the park. Aerial surveys show the increased movement onto farmlands outside of the protected area, and this may explain the decrease in distribution within the park in recent years. However, it does not account for the declining numbers, as eland in the farmlands are also still included in the annual aerial counts. This paper was published online last week, actually, and apart from population numbers and distribution, it also assesses population structure and mortality, examining changes in relation to climate, natural impacts, management, and efficacy of surveys. The paper also highlights the fact that if the observed population decline continues well beyond what was recorded in 1942, then there's a cause for concern, management response from Ezemvelo for the eland population in the Berg. So even though jackal is a potential predator, they would not account as a factor alone driving antelope trends. It could be important in combination with other factors such as extreme weather conditions, nutrition, etc. But jackal numbers and their distribution also appear to be declining over the years, which is not what one would expect if they're a potential mammal predator for the Berg. And moving on to livestock, these figures show livestock species across KZN from 1995 to 2018, and each of the species appear to be declining over the years. This figure shows in total numbers of livestock species in just the magisterial district surrounding the Berg, and we can see that cattle is shown by the red. Cattle appear to be slightly increasing over the years, whereas sheep numbers are decreasing, shown by the blue. And goats, horses, mules, and donkeys appear to be relatively stable across the years. So this, I've just split each of the livestock numbers into the different districts, and most of them do appear to be decreasing, with the exception of Mount Currie, which shows a lot of fluctuating numbers over the years. And there was inadequate data for us to determine trends for Mooi River. Here I've calculated densities for each species, each livestock species for each district. And again, it just shows cattle appear to be increasing in each of the districts, shown by the red. And sheep appear to be decreasing. And goats and horses, mules, and donkeys are relatively stable across the years. And again, we had inadequate data for Mooi River. and those were data up until 1995. And we did get 2004 stock census data, so we wanted to determine the trend from 95 to 2004, and we found that 3 of the magisterial districts showed increasing livestock population trends, and 3 of the districts showed decreasing population trends. So just a summary of all the results. For wildlife species, patrol efforts remained consistent across the years, which allowed us to analyze population trends in relation to survey effort. And we have a lot of decreasing trends for a lot of the antelope species. And there was high variance in the data for mountain reedbuck, grey duiker, klipspringer, and baboon, which didn't really allow us to give definitive trends for these species. And all species to some extent showed a reduction in the distribution within the park. With livestock species, there was an average decline of 36% across all magisterial districts. However, when compared to the 2004 stock census, half of the districts showed increasing, whereas half of the districts showed decreasing population trends. So this study basically is just describing trends of mammalian herbivores in the Drakensberg and surrounding areas. Possible explanations for these trends still need to be looked into further when we need additional data in order to do that. With regards to wildlife species, improved survey effort with regards to specific routes that are covered to observe and record animal distributions, and these need to cover all habitat types in order to include all species such as klipspringer. And identifying specific routes that are covered will also allow us to determine densities for these wildlife species. Livestock species, the census needs to be ongoing, and it would be nice to be able to separate communal and commercial areas, and at a more finer scale rather than just looking at large magisterial districts. Thank you.